The time has come and we can finally talk Spider-Man No Way Home, which, like the first two films, is directed by Jon Watts and is starring Tom Holland, Zendaya, Benedict Cumberbatch, Willem Dafoe, and many more. In this one, we pick up shortly after the events of Homecoming, where Peter Parker has been unmasked and is no longer able to separate his personal identity from his superhero persona. Peter asks for help from Doctor Strange, and the stakes become even more dangerous, forcing him to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. I'll be joined in this review of Spider-Man No Way Home by my good friend Tyler, aka Nanogenix. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How does this one rank up against all other Spider-Man films? How about all other MCU films? Let me know your thoughts below.
I'll let you start us off. He's the movie guy. He's a bunch of TV shows, a bunch of movies, all of that. Did you like the movie? That's what everyone, they're all gonna click off. Retention, screw YouTube retention. No one's gonna care. Did you like the movie though?
Loved the movie. I loved the movie. I'm glad that we're about we're a little bit over near 2 hours since we walked out of that theater.
Yes.
And I'm thankful that we didn't drive away and immediately get on this video, because I've had time to simmer.
Same.
And
it's gotten better in my head.
It has. It has. When the movie ended, you tweeted 10 out of 10, and I'm like, And I'm honestly, I don't know that I'm 10 out of 10.
It was a bold tweet. I'll give you that. It was a bold tweet, but I think coming into this, with already moderately high expectations and feeling the way I felt, was pretty impressive. And so I think for me, the thing that I was gauging it with, and I think part of Far From Home's problem too, was that going into that movie off the heels of Endgame, and obviously Endgame, with some of its problems here and there, it delivered. I don't care what anyone says. That movie off of the hype that it had to close out and capitalize on, I still think that movie delivered really, really well. So then going into Far From Home, I remember leaving that theater, and Brianna and I watched that one together, and I remember both of us just being like, it was an okay movie, but we didn't leave that being all that satisfied, I think is the best way to say it. Again, you and I probably differ on that, but for me, going into this though, I was like, man, dude, this is the one, right? This is gonna be this is the Tom Holland coming through MCU Spider-Man movie, and then I left enjoying it more than I even thought I would. So yeah, I think that is why I just went ahead. I said, screw it. You know what? 10 out of 10 for me. I think this movie delivered in all the ways that it needed to. So that was where I'm at. And the more I've been able, like you said, we're 2 hours out. So obviously we still have, you taught me a new phrase. I didn't realize, and then I've started seeing this on my timeline. So I don't know if this is going around, but recency bias, right? So we are still reeling from the hype, maybe in 2 weeks, I'll think differently after I've maybe went and seen it again. Cause I definitely want to go see it again. Had to pee like a mother for the last hour of it, so I want to go. I want to go watch it again, where I'm not also thinking about my freaking bladder and But anyways, so you tell me. Actually, it's a really good. I'm curious. How do you feel about Far From Home? Did you like Far From Home, overall?
Yes, I did. I did like Far From Home a lot.
Okay.
I had to revisit it before I went and saw this movie to just remember where we're at.
Yes, yeah.
Which entirely.
I didn't revisit that one. I revisited Homecoming. I don't know. It probably makes less sense to actually revisit Homecoming over Far From Home. But sorry. Anyways, go ahead.
No, yeah. I revisited them both, and Far From Home definitely made more sense going into this movie to revisit. And I kind of appreciated that film all over again. Mysterio was a fantastic villain. And
I mean, yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal killed it. I just want to throw this out there. There were a lot of aspects of Far From Home I liked. I just remember walking away from that movie not being as fulfilled feeling, I think, as I have from this one specifically, is really all I was getting at there.
Yeah. So. You know what's one of the funniest things that I realized on my drive home was the villain that impacted this movie the most wasn't even in this movie. Well, he kind of was as flashbacks. Mysterio's the reason this movie happened, and the story was what it was. And I developed a little bit further appreciation for that villain. But yes, the recency bias thing is a challenge because when you're unaware of recency bias, then you're all like, yeah, you leave this movie and you're like, oh my God, it's amazing. But when you're aware that it's a thing, it kind of has the opposite effect. It's like I sit through movies like this movie and you're like 10 out of 10 and I'm just like I know that I just enjoyed that, but I am aware of recency bias, so I can't have enjoyed it that much. But the truth is, man, this movie was freaking awesome.
Yes.
And I want to talk through the specific aspects of what I believe made it awesome, and I think we'll both have thoughts on all of this. And so,
yeah, Diz here is the much more structured. He has probably some notes in front of him. I have Tim the Tapman's channel because I accidentally clicked on it before we started recording. So, like, you know, let's go. What do you got for us, Diz? Let's hear it.
Let's start with probably the easiest thing to talk about and the thing that impacts us most when we're watching movies, and that is the characters and the actors. For me, I think this was the thing that contributed the most to this movie being as great as it was. Tom Holland was amazing, as you said. And
yes,
he and I talked the other day.
Chops today, man. Like, holy crap, he was so good.
Yeah, you and I were just talking the other day, and I was talking kind of negatively about Tom Holland and how I haven't been a major fan of his approach to Spider-Man. Bro, dude, he killed it this movie.
Yeah, like, he was so good, man.
I don't know that the character matured so much and was able to hammer home all of the emotional aspects of this film. This movie almost made it onto my list of movies that have made me cry. Which is
a tier for sure.
That list for me is one movie long. I've never cried. Only one movie ever.
Okay.
But it almost happened 3 times in this movie. I felt tears coming to my eyes, but I never cried. But anyway, this movie's incredibly emotional, which I was not expecting.
No, I wasn't either. And that, like, in going from that aspect, and again, we'll be able to dive way more in a moment when we start about spoilers or in the separate video with Diz, but like, from obviously I want to rewatch this movie, and I will for sure rewatch this movie more so than any of the other Tom Holland films. But at the same time, it's such a heavy movie that I'm like I obviously want to re-see it, but I'm also like, dang, man, like, you know, like, it's like, it is fun. It's a fun watch, but man, dude, it is a little heavier than I thought it was going to be. So, yeah.
But Tom Holland was not the standout actor for me.
Who was? Willem.
Yes.
Dude.
Willem Dafoe.
Dude.
Oh my God.
My gosh. Yeah. I honestly, like, everyone brought it in this film. Like, I really, I mean, you may feel differently, but for me, like, I just was just all of them. They were just, it was so good, man. God, it was so good. Mm-hmm. He like took it up a notch, dude. Holy crap. He was there, man.
Yeah. This is not a spoiler because he's playing this same exact character that he played in the previous films, but I felt that he took it to another level. Maybe it's, for me, I am interpreting it differently because I'm at a different stage in my life, but I felt like I was watching, like, elderly sounds worse than I intend it to sound, but like a person suffering with like some type of dementia or something. Like, I felt bad for him. He made me feel bad for the character when he wasn't like the Green Goblin, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he was actually showing like empathy and remorse and stuff like that. Like, God, like, kind of broke my heart a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, like that's what we mean. I mean, I'm sure if you're watching this and you haven't seen it yet and you're going to dip out when the spoiler portion happens, probably your mind's racing all over. But we just mean, like, the actors really did a lot. And there was a lot more just heavy, like, thematics to it than I expected from this movie. And that, like, exactly what you just touched on with, you know, seeing the struggle within Green Goblin and stuff. Like, that's just stuff that I just truly didn't expect going into this. And yeah, Willem, he's a good actor. Like, we already knew that anyway, but man, dude, it's just so cool seeing that being portrayed in this Spider-Man movie. It's awesome.
So in terms of the story, it's basically impossible to talk about the story without getting into spoilers.
Yeah.
Kind of from a super high level, zero spoiler stance, what I can say, as I said, is incredibly emotional, more emotional than most people probably expect going into a film like this. And then in terms of structure, I've heard a lot of people say that the first act really like drags, like it's too slow.
So yeah, I saw that. So what I did was that I went to Rotten Tomatoes. I couldn't help myself, but I was like, I know there's no spoilers over there. I can at least see what people are thinking. And I saw that. I don't agree with that at all.
I highly disagree with that.
The pacing was, and so after reading that, I wasn't expecting it to play out the way it did, dude.
Yeah.
If you think that first act is slow, you're crazy, bro. That's probably some of my favorite moments, honestly. Dude, I'm ready to get into spoilers stuff. I'm ready to be able to talk about things. Anything else you want to hit on? So I'm ready to get.
Bro, hold on. Couple more.
No, you got to do your thing. You got to do your thing, but.
Yeah. So the other thing people said about the first act was not only the pacing, but also like your typical superhero nostalgia type stuff. I just want to say, I don't think any of that's true. It's this film, first to third act, was amazing. And yes, the first act does lay the groundwork for what you are about to watch, as the first act should.
Yes, in a really well laid out way.
Right. And so no, the first act is not filled with explosions and fighting, but it's still really, really good, and is a perfect setup for the rest of the film. The rest of the things I want to talk about, two more things I want to talk about on the no spoiler side of things, is the score. There's not too much to talk about except for it's incredible. Michael Giacchino, I could be butchering that name, and I'm sorry if I am, but absolutely no surprises considering his works up to this point. He did Coco and many other Pixar and other superhero films. It was perfect. And I think, honestly, as does happen in a lot of movies, it really elevated those emotional moments that we were talking about. Like, man, when his score hit, it was just like, it was so good.
This was substantially better. I mean, like, I can't even, thinking back to and I just watched Homecoming 2 weeks ago. Thinking back to Homecoming and thinking back to Far From Home, there's literally no standout OST to those movies for me. But yes, in this one, I was like, whoa. Like, I just feel like this was just on another level compared to either of those two films. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Like in every aspect of it? Or am I wrong? Are there standout tracks from Far From Home or Homecoming to you? Like, I didn't really notice the OST when I was watching those, like, hardly at all.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I don't recall sitting there watching a scene and like
actively thinking about the music, like you would say.
Yeah, being aware, like, holy crap, this is the perfect music for this moment.
Exactly. And that was that was not. I mean, that was total opposite in this film because it was And then the last thing I want to talk about, and I think this is the thing that, like, there's something rubbing me a little bit wrong about this movie. It's rubbing me the wrong way, and I think it is the visuals. And bear with me a moment, okay? Because I know you might be raising your eyebrows right now or something. It was a bit CGI heavy for me. Now, this is 2021 and this is Marvel, so they do it better than most. So it's not like I'm watching this and I'm like, this is clearly like CGI and it's removing me from the experience. That didn't necessarily happen, but it was very, very CGI heavy. And I kind of wish there would have been more balance between practical and CG.
Yeah.
There was, but man, it did look good though.
It did.
I mean,
look good,
as you would expect from what I presume is going to be something close to rivaling Endgame box office potential here. So,
yeah.
Is that it? Can we talk spoilers? Are we ready to dive in?
All right, so Tyler's very ready to talk spoilers, so we are going to jump over and do that now. Real quick, I want to share with you my rating for this movie, which is 4.5 out of 5 stars, just in case you don't want to jump over and watch the spoiler video, where we also talk about our ratings in comparison to other Spider-Man and MCU films. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.